I had the chance for many, many years, 7, 8 years, to study with Joe Morello
Wow.
in the New Jersey area, and he had that kind of a sound when he played. It was so interesting and so soft and creamy that he played, but he played some, like Take 5 was in 5/4, and he played over the bar line. It was, and although it was complicated, he made it feel good.
He did. It didn't. I didn't realize until I started trying to figure it out and try to figure out all the different parts. You know, how difficult it was, because it sounds like butter. You know, it's like that solo that he does on that album where he plays 5/4 solo, and he honors the 5/4 all the way from the very beginning to the very end. And like you said, he's just smooth, and it seems so effortless, but so precise.
Yeah.
I was doing a Modern Drummer Festival on the East Coast, and Joe was there, and I got a chance to thank him for the inspiration. It was a great thrill to meet him. Yeah.
But think about that here's this 4-piece, small little, drum set jazz player, and here you are taking that influence and bringing it into heavy metal and hard rock. I mean, it's just so great to see what you've done with all of that inspiration.
Well, I don't have really any jazz vocabulary whatsoever, because it wasn't long after that I started gravitating more to Beatle music and stuff like that. So that was very short-lived. He inspired me to play. I don't play anything like Joe Morello. I mean, the guy is so in another stratosphere compared to what I do. What I do is like Tinker Toys. It's very linear, it's very, very simple. There's no rocket science involved in what I do.
But that inspiration from him to you, that inspired you. So then who'd you get into after that? Was it into Cream?
Mitch Mitchell with Hendrix. Ginger Baker, of course, and of course the ultimate later on, was John Bonham, and so those were the three cats that really, and I don't think I play anything like any of those three people, but they had elements in their playing that just drew me in. In Mitch Mitchell's case, he was a big band drummer, Mitch Mitchell. Played with an orthodox grip and very light player, and he was playing with Jimi Hendrix, who was from who knows where, and the combination of those really contrasting styles and elements, or genres even, made for something completely different and new. Because if anyone else would have played on those records, they wouldn't have been what they became.
Right.
And that says a lot for Mitch Mitchell. He had a huge impact on, and I don't know, I can imagine how he must have felt when Jimi Hendrix starts Crosstown Traffic, or the hair must have stood up on the back of his neck. That's so inspirational, when you hear something like that. It's such drumistic music. Another was Ginger Baker, and Ginger Baker was a self-professed jazz drummer. I never really heard that in his playing until later on. And like he said, Cream was a jazz band, but we didn't tell Eric, And with what he and Jack Bruce were doing, it didn't seem really jazzy to me. It just seemed very unorthodox, But later on, when I gained a bigger, wider appreciation for Ginger Baker and what those guys did individually, did I realize what he was talking about. And
what about Bonham?
Well, John Bonham, I think when that guy came out, he was the ultimate rock guy. And John Bonham was really a funk drummer. He was a heavy-duty funk drummer, but you put what he was doing up against what Jimmy Page was coming up with. Good Times, Bad Times, that's the first Led Zeppelin tune that I heard, Good Times, Bad Times. And it changed my life. And John Bonham really changed the complexion of contemporary rock music in my estimation. No one was playing what he was doing. His big thing was the triplet, but everyone else before that had typically played it. He just reversed it. He assigned a different sound source to the two of the three. And so it sounded completely different, even though it was the same part. It was the same figure. And the way he approached the kit, it was just bigger than life. It was like parts that would typically be played on the snare drum on the toms, he was playing on the kick drum, getting into big fast doubles and stuff, and no one was doing that then. Most guys were doing it on their left hand or between their both hands.
Absolutely. So he changed the voicings around.
The voicing of it. He was assigning a different sound source to one section of a figure or a bar of 16. There would be 6 or 8 bass drum notes in a bar of 16 when Bonham would do a fill. That no one had done that before previously. Carmine preceded him, and Carmine was into double bass, but not really until later on. And I remember hearing Carmine talk about this John Bonham guy.
We said Carmine a piece.
And why he made such a big deal about this Apiece guy, because he was using one kick. And you hear him play, and no one would say, "Oh, thank God he only used one." Can you imagine what would happen if he used 2? Because I don't care what anybody says, if you could play on one, what you could play on two, there would only be one stick in a bag, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Well, it's kind of interesting. Even though these people, you were influenced by them and you kind of pull from them, your sound and how you play is totally you. You really discovered a sound that is known as Tommy Aldridge. It's a clear, distinctive style that you play.
I don't know how unique it is, especially by today's standards, because there's stuff being done so much on the kick drums. It's like, it's unfathomable to me. It's like defying gravity every second.
You did it first, so you inspired that next generation.
When I started playing two bass drums, it was really early on in my journey learning.
Yeah.
So when I started trying to apply the rudiments to the drum kit, I had a snare, kick drum, hi-hat, and a ride cymbal. Then I got a tom-tom, and then I got another bass drum. Not because I thought I could, I was really thought, oh, that was a really, something in my mind that I really needed to do that. It's just a friend of mine, it was a drummer, stopped playing, and I said, oh, could I borrow your bass drum just to mess around with it? Because I saw a picture of Louis Bellson.
Yeah.
With two bass drums, and I'm thinking, wow, what you going to do with that? You know, I didn't really know, wasn't that familiar with Louis Bellson's playing, and what I did hear of it, I didn't hear a lot of two bass drums going on.
Right.
And so when I got that other bass drum, it was only just to play around in my rehearsal room when I was growing up. And so what I would do, the same thing that I was doing on the kick, snare, and hi-hat and tom-tom, and was just applying the rudiments, taking a paradiddle and just playing eighth notes up here and just splitting the paradiddle between my left hand and right foot, and then I would split the paradiddle between my right hand and left foot just for exercises. It was nothing that anyone said, oh, you should do that, or anything like that. It was just a way for me to spend time in my rehearsal room.
But that's a great independent exercise that all drummers should be doing.
And so it wasn't something that I planned or that I'm a really smart cat and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to do this and nobody else is going to do it. I'm going to be the first one to do it. Never thought like that at all. I was only just messing around with the rudiments and trying to come out of my drum room with a pattern or something that I hadn't heard on a record or heard someone else do. That was my goal.
Very natural. This was a real natural development.
Yeah, it was. And so I was playing two bass drums before it became fashionable, before I even realized I was doing it. As months went by and a year or so went by, I was still quite a young kid, and I'd start doing some of these silly things at rehearsal with the band. And the guitar player said, wow, that was really cool. What was that? And I said, oh, it was just this silly thing, this exercise I was doing. They said, try it. And so it was other people that picked up on it that I was working with, young guys, kids. Daryl Gunter, this guy that I was growing up with and learned to play together with. And he said, we should try that in a song, And so it was other people that encouraged it. And it didn't seem like there was a musical context that it would be applicable. And then Led Zeppelin came out. And when I heard John Bonham doing all this crazy stuff on the kick drum that had been typically not played on that particular part of the instrument, the same patterns, but not played on that part of the instrument, I said, oh, there is room to play more stuff on the kick drums. Not that I beat anyone to the punch, it's just that when I heard him playing, it really solidified that way of thinking in my head, thinking at 125, 30 pounds, which I weigh about that now, I was always trying to find ways to be heavier, sound heavier. The music that I was starting to play, lean toward and gravitate to, and what accommodated me most emotionally was heavier and heavier music. And so I was trying to find a way to play the music that we were coming up with in a way that made it sound heavier. Necessity was the mother of that invention.
That's absolutely brilliant and natural and really kind of unique, because you just drove it by what you felt, and the musicians that you were playing with were just local players that you were just kind of jamming with or playing with?
Exactly. And then when I got my first audition for the first so-called big gig that I got.
Dom Famularo here at the Sessions panel. This is so exciting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Click the subscribe button to be a part of what we're doing. The views help us tremendously. All of your comments, we read them and react to them. This is incredible. The support you're giving us is great. The Sessions panel. We'll see you real soon.